Hello, Dr. Smith. This is Miss Cherry, class of 1986. And gosh, that's 25 years ago, but who's counting? I have so much to be thankful for, and I'm so pleased that you were my professor back then because you provided a bridge for me to launch my successful career in marketing and advertising and innovation. There's not a day that goes by that I don't use one of your teachings or your insights in the business. And on top of that, I think your values that you gave us all, your encouragement to be creative and passionate, but more importantly, your undying belief that you must be driven in this advertising business have been key. And you gave me that right from the start. Back in the old days, as everyone knows, we all called each other from the last names. So you were always Dr. Smith and I was always Ms. Cherry. It was very formal, and we wore suits to class. And all of that was a great foundation because all of those things were very true in the advertising world in 1986. We had to wear a suit, not only a suit, but at the place that I started at, it had to be a dress or a skirt. There were no pants allowed for women in 1986, which seems crazy, but times have changed. But in the class, I remember you kind of shocked us all when you said the class would be two parts. One was our agency teams, which were wonderful, and I had lots of great friendships and learned about working together and teamwork and the importance of it. But the most pivotal piece was the class you did to start us with, the first section, which was interviewing. And you shocked us all, and you said if you join advertising, most of your career would be spent interviewing and finding jobs because you'll move around. Now that part wasn't so true for me since I stayed at my first agency 16 years. But the piece about getting in the business and a job were crucial. You talked about having a passion and to not give up and to find the right thing no matter the cost. And part of it is you made us interview in front of the class and you didn't know when you would go. And you had a hat with all of our names in it and you reached in and you would draw a name, or maybe you had one of the students draw a name, and one person would then interview in front of everybody watching. And you would test different little tests for each of the students. And lo and behold, what luck would have it is you reached in on the very first day where no relationships were developed in class and my name came up. So I had to come in front of you and interview. And a little background to the story for those of you who don't know me. I was a track runner at IU and I ran the half-mile race, which is a very difficult race. They say it's one of the hardest because you have to sprint when everything in your body shuts down and says to stop. And part of being a runner is you learn to calm yourself down in high-stress situations. So here I am sitting in front of the classroom of 20 students I don't know with a professor I don't know much about, and he's interrogating me because I had on my resume personnel jobs because I couldn't find a job in advertising. So I got personnel jobs. And you started to work your little exercise on me and tell me that I wasn't tough enough, Miss Cherry, and maybe you needed to go into another profession because advertising is about being driven and hard work, and maybe you're just not cut out for it. And I will say the first part of the interview I was nervous, and so I was not had the great tone in my voice. I was quiet in my breathing. And frankly, as all the students in the room told me in my reviews, I was quite boring in front of the class. But when you said that, I didn't think, and I leaned up into the conversation, and I said to you, have you ever run an 800-meter dash? And you're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, what does this have to do with advertising? And I think you even said that. And I said, well, let me tell you what happens when you run the 800 meters, Dr. Smith. The first 200 meters, you go out as hard as you can, and you take the lead and stay in the pack. And in the last 200 meters, when everything is shutting down, you have to go very fast and dig down deep. And most people can't do that, and I can. And at any rate, I figured I did terrible on the interviews, but when I got all the feedback forms back from all of the students in the room, It was not going very well, not going very well. But when I started talking about the 800 meters and my passion came out, everyone said, yes, that was it, perfect, great. So I got my first piece of learning from you by testing me through that experience. And lo and behold, when I graduated, I sent out over 300 resumes, and 86 no agencies were hiring. And I wanted New York and Chicago, and I had a creative resume, and I did all of that work. And no one was hiring, but I was able to get an interview in Cincinnati at a place called Northlake. And I got in, I talked my way in to the president, and he liked me for my creative resume. And he said to the secretary at the time, you know, see if Chris Hayes could talk to you. So I went up to see Chris Hayes, and Chris Hayes, lo and behold, was a rugby player. And Chris Hayes was interviewing me, and he saw my resume, the personnel experience. And then it was going pretty well. I felt like it was good. I made it through the president and made it to Chris Hayes. And Chris goes, you know, I have to tell you, Susan, he says, I'm not sure you're tough enough and cut out for advertising. Advertising is a tough business. And it was all I could do not to laugh. I leaned in and I said, Chris, have you ever run the 800-meter dash? And he was spellbound. And before I left his office, he said, don't take another job. I'm going to call you. We're going to figure out a way to get you to work here. So, you know, I studied advertising. I studied marketing. I knew all of that. But the reason I got my job, my very first job, was because of that experience with Bob, where I learned some lessons on how to be tough and give a visual example. And all my running and hard work of being driven paid off for that. So a big thank you. It got me in the door. From there, then, I had a long way to go and a lot to learn, and the lessons in self-importance and how to use behavior management to your advantage to sell things was critical. And then how to work in teams and use an intrinsic approach to motivate people and the value of creativity. All of that paid off, and 25 years later, I have started my own agency, Seed Strategy. We have 33 people, and it's a wonderful place, and I have you to thank. You, the backbone and the foundation of my thinking, and from there I built on that. So I'm not sure where it would have ended up. Probably would have gotten here eventually, because I guess I can run the 800 meters, but might not have been so quick. So, and I'm honored that we're still friends, and I see you regularly and work together, and can't beat that, you know, 25 years in that experience. So I thank you, and I look forward to the future. I think actually I get to see you a lot more, and that's wonderful. So congratulations on this new chapter of your career and life, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.